Let's just imagine you're one of the thousands of Australian families that has decided a Ford Ranger is your next family wheels, but you don't know which one to buy. Well, don't worry, because Ford's got your back. You are now absolutely, officially 100% spoilt for choice, because this vehicle, the Tremor, is the 8th version of the 4x4 dual cab Ranger. And there was me thinking 7 was enough. Apparently not. Now this vehicle is kind of a replacement for the Wildtrak X, which was a limited edition model this time last year. This uses the same suspension as that vehicle, and that means this is one of the more capable off-road vehicles. It's jacked up, it's got high-end shock absorbers, and it's got the 10-speed auto and the bi-turbo diesel. It's just under 70 grand, and I reckon we should take it for a spin. But before we go anywhere, let me just explain to you what's under the bonnet, because this vehicle is exclusively fitted with this engine, and this engine is one of the things that's made the Ranger so darn popular. It's the 2-litre twin-turbo diesel 4-cylinder. It's hooked to the 10-speed automatic. Now, this engine makes 150 kilowatts of power and 500 newton meters of torque, but crucially, it's quite a bit more economical than the V6 turbo diesel that's also offered in the Ranger. And a lot of people like that, particularly if you're going long distance touring. Range is very important, because that means you don't have to carry jerry cans. So important safety feature as well. This vehicle also has a rear diff lock, and it's got a thing called terrain turn, whereby it steers a little bit like an army tank. It can actually lock the inside rear wheel on full lock to pull the tail around a corner. On tight forest trails, that actually works really well. And the rest of it, well, the rest of it's high-end shocks. That's what makes the Tremor the Tremor. It's what makes it special. These are Bilstein shocks with remote reservoirs. So they're a really high-end solution to the problem of keeping all its wheels on the ground at once. Okay, but what about the business end, the ute? Because I mean, let's face it, this is why people buy utes. It's because they can carry stuff. And this one, apparently you can stick things in it. It's got a drop-in liner to protect the metalwork from rust and damage from heavy loads. It's got these adjustable luggage tie-down points, or load tie-down points. It's even somewhere, yeah, right here, it's got a power socket so you can power your tools and things. The only thing I really don't understand is this sports bar. I don't know what it does. You can't tie anything to it, and it's not going to help you in a rollover, but maybe it looks cool. I don't know. Given that it has the high-end suspension system, higher ride height and wider track of the Wildtrak X, the Tremor looks like pretty good value at $69,690. But the permanent all-wheel drive function is also a great value add to a vehicle like this. The Ranger Sport, on which the Tremor is based, also brings nice touches that not all dual cabs get, such as a reach and height adjustable steering column, dual zone climate control and LED headlights. What's missing? Mainly heated front seats and the fact that only the driver's chair is electrically adjusted. For the full rundown, check out the written review at carsguide.com.au. How does the Tremor drive? Well, if you've had any experience with the latest generation Ford Ranger, you're not going to find anything too confronting or too unfamiliar here. Fact is, it's more of the same formula that made this vehicle the best-selling car in the country. The other thing that occurs to me with this car, and it sort of came to me once I got off the bitumen and onto the off-road stuff, that the suspension is quite a bit more firm than the standard Ranger Sport on which this car is based. And you notice that on the bitumen more than off-road. Off-road, you're getting bounced around anyway, and the shocks are clearly doing a good job of controlling that extra ride height and those stiffer springs. But on the bitumen, when you're traveling quite a bit faster, that's when the ride can actually deteriorate a bit. And I think for a lot of people, the base model Sport, or the non-Tremor Sport Ranger, is possibly going to be a better bet. Now we're just coming to a rocky climb here, shale and all sorts. So I'm in 4 low, and I'm going to hook it into rock crawl mode, when I can find it. Sand, rock crawl, there we are. And I'm going to lock in the rear diff, which is now locked in. So we are sort of at DEFCON 9 here in terms of off-road attack. Here we go. And it's really rutted, and you'll see when you see the outside shot that some of this terrain is pretty serious. But I've got to say, it's doing it pretty easy. Thanks, mate. In fact, that was more than just pretty easy. That was a walk in the park. Brilliant stuff. So what's it like on the road? Well, back on the bitumen, this thing is as easy to drive as any other Ranger. The 10-speed auto works really well. It's a gear for every occasion. The motor is actually a real sweetie. You wouldn't think a 2-litre turbo diesel would be enough to haul around 2 and a bit tonnes, but it does it so easy. And in fact, you've actually got to watch the speedo like a hawk, because it is deceptively fast because it's so quiet. So you get it up to speed and you back off the accelerator and it just coasts along in a high gear. And you look down and before you know it, you're getting up close to the legal limit. So you've got to keep an eye on it. But that means it's a really relaxed vehicle over a long distance too. Fuel economy is not bad, given that it is a big vehicle and it can carry a lot of stuff, and it can still tow 3.5 tonnes too. So that's going to be appealing to a lot of people. But overall, it's ridiculously easy to drive. I think again the only thing that would limit its appeal is the slight loss of ride quality or ride comfort at speed, and that's purely down to the suspension. But the flip side of that is that suspension makes it devastatingly good off-road. The official combined fuel consumption figure for the Tremor depends on whether you take up Ford's offer of disabling the auto stop-start function. If you do, the official number is 9.3 litres per 100 kilometres. Leaving the stop-start functioning drops that to 8.7 litres per 100 kilometres, but only on the official test. In the real world, it won't make that much difference, and you can bank on using about 10 litres per 100 kilometres on the highway anyway. That, combined with the 80-litre tank, gives a range of about 800 kilometres, but you need to factor in the cost of AdBlue in running the Tremor, as its engine meets Euro 6 emission standards. The Ford Ranger has always been at the head of the pack for passenger safety, and the Tremor carries on that theme. Standard driver aids for the Tremor include autonomous emergency braking, lane keep and assistance, blind spot monitoring, traffic sign recognition, and tyre pressure monitoring. If you want the 360-degree camera though, you need to option up the extra cost touring pack, which also adds some tricky lighting and the trailer reversing electronics. A total of 9 airbags feature in the Tremor's cabin, including side curtain airbags for every outboard occupant. Ford's standard warranty for the Ranger is a 5-year unlimited kilometre deal that also comes with up to 7 years of roadside assistance, provided the vehicle is serviced at a Ford dealership. That option also includes free sat-nav updates on the same conditions. Service intervals are every 15,000 kilometres or 12 months, whichever comes first, and there's cap price servicing for the first 4 years or 60,000 kilometres at $1,385 including GST. Just don't forget to budget for AdBlue. There's no doubt that the Tremor is more of the same, and that's no bad thing because it's a formula that Aussie families and tradies seem to love. Take a trip in the outback these days and the place is packed with dual cab utes, many of them new Rangers. So, no surprises there. The catch with the Tremor is that even though the more sophisticated suspension works well off-road, it does mean the vehicle is not quite as composed in ride terms as its cheaper Ranger Sport stablemate. None of this is to suggest that the normal sport model can't hold its own in the rough stuff, and for a lot of families, the more expensive Tremor might just be a shock absorber too far.